And I'd like to welcome everyone to this sharing. I'm very glad to have this opportunity to study the Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta together with you. It is also a very great opportunity for myself to revise and to practice this very important sutta, a very important teaching of the Buddha. We'll now pay respect to the Buddha before we start the course officially. So let's recite Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the sublime, the victorious, the totally self-enlightened one. All right. So in this course, we are going to look at the Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 10. Well, this sutta, I think, because it is such an important and famous sutta that I think many of you might already know it. It is considered as one of the most important sutta in the entire Tipitaka. In this sutta, the Buddha gave instructions on how to practice vipassana meditation. Now, some scholars doubt whether the Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta was taught by the Buddha or whether it was a later compilation. Their doubts are based on geographical reasons and the frequency that this teaching appeared throughout the 3 baskets. So it seems like they have some kind of the study, then they find like how many places this thing appeared, or this kind of example, it appears in this Nikaya or in that one. So they do some kind of this kind of studies, and they have some doubt about whether this sutta is a later compilation or whether the Buddha really taught it. But according to the Theravada tradition, it is accepted that the entire Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta is an original teaching of the Buddha. And here I will explain according to what I learned from my teachers, and most of the explanation will be based on Sayadaw Usilananda and Sayadaw U Kamsachala's explanation. Sayadaw Usilananda is a very respected Burmese monk who taught both Pariyatti and Patipatti, so the scriptures or theory and meditation practice as well. He was one of the most distinguished editor of the Pali Canon and the associated commentaries at the 6th Buddhist Council. I think some of you might have heard of Mahasi Sayadaw, right? Some of you practice the Mahasi tradition. Yeah. So Mahasi Sayadawji, he has contributed a lot of spreading the Dhamma for lay people, both in Myanmar and also in the West. So in 1979, Mahasi Sayadawji visited San Francisco to give Dhamma talks and also taught meditation. At that time, Sayadawji Usilananda was with him also. Then later on, to fulfill the overwhelming request from the Burmese community in the US, Mahasi Sayadawji agreed to live behind Sayadaw Usilananda in San Francisco to continue the teaching. So Sayadaw Usilananda has been spending a lot of time in the US, and which for us is really very fortunate because Sayadawji's English is it was very good, and it is really a great benefit for those who do not know Burmese or other Asian language, because Sayadawji explained the Dhamma very clearly and very truthfully according to the original Pali and the commentaries. Although Sayadawji have already passed away, but he left a lot of videos and audio recordings and some books for us. So that's how I get to actually learn from Sayadawji, because personally I did not have the honor to meet him in person. Sayadawji passed away in California when he was 78 years old. It was 2005 that Sayadawji passed away. But so from the books and the audios, that's where we can still learn from Sayadawji. And Sayadaw Usilananda, he was originally director of the International Theravada Buddhist Missionary University in Yangon. And after Sayadawji retired, then he passed it on to Sayadaw Unandamala Biwamsa. So they are both very respected monks. And Sayadaw Kamsachara became a novice when he was 9 years old and was fully ordained at the age of 20. Then he got his Dhammacharya Dhammacharya means Dhamma teacher degree. It's a monastic education system in Myanmar at his early age. And he started teaching in his teacher's monastery in Mandalay. Then later on, he furthered his study in Sri Lanka and was invited to establish a Buddhist monastery in Macau, where I'm originally from. So that's where I met Sayadaw for the first time. And then later on, Sayadaw also completed his master's degree in Buddhist studies in Hong Kong and his PhD in India. So Sayadaw is my primary teacher for scriptures and for Abhidhamma. So Sayadaw taught explanation of this Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta in 2018. So I'm also using the notes that I took that time for the explanation. Also, I'm still taking classes with Sayadaw actually every week. And Sayadaw has agreed that if we have any questions during this course that we do not find an answer or we need some more information, then he has agreed to answer our questions. So it is also very fortunate for us to have knowledgeable teachers to back up the course. And then some reference will also be taken from Sayadaw Ji Unandamala Biwamsa as well as Power Park Sayadaw. Sayadaw Ji Unandamala Biwamsa. He is one of the most respected Sayadaw in Myanmar for his knowledge and his wisdom and the way that he so skillfully explained the Dhamma also. Sayadaw Ji was ordained as a novice monk when he was 10 years old, and he passed the Abhidhamma exam when he was only 13. He's really a very amazing, knowledgeable Sayadaw. Sayadaw in Burmese, in Myanmar, we call the monks, we call them Sayadaw. So that's like a teacher or venerable. And then Sayadaw Ji got his Dhammacharya degree when he was only 16. So kind of like he graduated the Buddhist university when he was like 16 years old. And then later he kept on studying. And Sayadaw Ji, he's very, very knowledgeable and very compassionate as well. He was the rector of the International Theravada Buddhist Missionary University in Myanmar. And although Sayadaw Ji, he has such a deep wisdom, but he's always very friendly and very compassionate. And he always maintained a very childlike innocence in him. So it's very, very inspiring to be in his presence. So just to share a little bit of the Dhamma talks that he gives in Myanmar, how it looks. So that it is one of the talks that he gave in the Shwedagon Pagoda. It's always extremely full of people. So it's really, really a privilege to have opportunity to study under Sayadaw Ji. Well, before COVID, Sayadaw Ji used to give Dhamma courses in English for English speakers also. But after that, everything got a little bit difficult in Myanmar, political situation and all those things. So now we do not have classes in Myanmar, but all the videos of the previous courses are online. So if you are interested, later I will give you the link. Then if you're interested, you can get online and study the previous courses that Sayadaw Ji has given. For daily examples and where relevant, I will also use some examples and teachings of how to practice the 4 foundations of mindfulness in daily life as taught by Sayadaw U Tejaniya and also Longpo Pramod from Thailand also. Okay, so up to here, we have done a little bit of introduction of where the explanations will come from. Now we are going directly into the sutta, but we will start from a little bit of the background information of this sutta first. Now this sutta was expounded to the Kuru people in a market town that is called the Kamasa Dhamma. So if we look at an ancient map of India, it is located around this area. Kuru. If you are familiar with the Buddhist scriptures, and you may know of these names like Magadha, Kosala, and all these places, so it is around this area. So Kuru is this place where the Buddha preached the Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta. And nowadays, that area that used to be known as Kuru is located near New Delhi, India, northern India. So nowadays it looks like this. I think many of you know that King Ashoka established many monuments in many important Buddhist sites in India. So the places where the Buddha was born, the places where the Buddha took parinibbana, the first sermon, and many important suttas. No? Thanks to King Ashoka, because of these Ashoka pillars that we call, that we know the location of these very important places. So the Ashoka pillar is probably inside this little construction to protect it. Yeah. So in this area. So at the time of the Buddha, it is said that the condition in that region in terms of the weather, the food, and the overall prosperity was very favorable in that area. So the Kuru people, they enjoyed this comfortable conditions, and they were always happy in body and mind. So supported by this healthy body and mind conditions, their power of understanding are quite mature, and therefore they are capable of receiving quite profound teachings. According to the commentaries, the Kuru people are naturally quite calm, and they uphold the 5 precepts and were very interested in practicing and learning the Dhamma. So that's why the Buddha elaborated on this sutta in such details here. Now, it does not mean that the Buddha preached this Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta only to the Kuru people, because during the 45 years of his teaching, the Buddha preached the Satipatthāna method at many different places on many different occasions. In the collections of the Samyutta Nikaya, you can find there is a chapter that is called the Satipatthāna chapter. It consists of 104 suttas altogether. So they are all about Satipatthāna, but they are shorter suttas, and they were delivered in different places in different time. So it was only to the people of Kuru, to the Kuru people, that the Buddha taught this sutta in greater details. And this is the sutta that we are going to use in this course. Okay, now throughout this course, we will be looking at the Pali text, the original sutta, the text, and then we'll also look at the English translation. The English translation that we will be using is the revised version of Sayadaw Usilananda, found in his book, The 4 Foundations of Mindfulness. And where necessary, we will also quote Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation also, but mostly we'll be using Sayadaw Usilananda's translation. I chose this translation because it is very clear, and the fidelity of it to the original Pali is very truthful to that. So therefore, we will be using this translation. Also, I don't know if many of you are familiar with Pali terms or not. I will be using quite a lot of Pali terms during the explanation. If you are not familiar with Pali, don't worry, because English translation will always be given. But these Pali terms will come up again and again. So by listening to it again and again, you will gain familiarity with them. And later, the mind will automatically remember them and know their meaning. So don't worry about that. But in case you do feel that the Pali terms are too much for you at the moment, don't worry about them. Please just focus on the explanation. It is more important to get a general understanding of the sutta, as the purpose of this course is not Pali study, and I also do not have enough knowledge to explain all the Pali grammar of the whole sutta to you. But I would still like to use some of the Pali terms, because knowing them is very helpful, as many times translations do not convey the meaning of the term entirely. So instead of relying on the translation, it's always good to know the original Pali term and know its meaning, because it can it encompasses usually a wider meaning of that the English translation cannot explain. Yeah. All right. So now we start with the very beginning of the sutta. Yeah. So it says, Evam me suttam ekam samayam bhagava kurusu viharati. Kama sadhamma nama kurunam nigamo. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was living in Kurus, where there was a market town of the Kurus named Kama Sadhamma. So here, the information on where this sutta was expounded can be found in the very first line of this sutta.
the Kurusu Viharati, when the Buddha was residing in with the Kurus, now in the town that is called Mahāsatipatthāna. And then if we go back to the original, the first word of the sutta, Evam me suttam, thus have I heard. And you may already know that every sutta in the collection of the discourses is introduced by these words, thus have I heard, Evam me suttam. And the word, thus have I heard, this I actually referred to Venerable Ananda, who was the first cousin of the Buddha. Now, Venerable Ananda was the Buddha's permanent personal assistant for 25 years. It is said that Venerable Ananda is of the same age as the Buddha, and they were born on the same day. The Buddha taught for 45 years, but during the first 20 years, he did not have a permanent attendant. Now, in the 21st year of his teaching, the Buddha announced that he needed a personal attendant. And at that time, many of his chief disciples wanted to serve the Buddha as his attendant, but the Buddha did not accept them. Then in one assembly, some bhikkhus asked Venerable Ananda, why don't you offer your service to the Buddha? But then Venerable Ananda said, if the Lord Buddha really wants me to be his attendant, he will ask me himself, so I will not offer unless the Buddha asked me. So eventually, the Buddha asked Venerable Ananda to become his attendant, and Venerable Ananda replied that yes, he would accept the position, but he has some conditions. So Venerable Ananda gave 8 conditions to the Buddha. The first one was that he should not be given the robes received by the Buddha. And then he should not be given the food received by the Buddha. The third one, he should not be asked to stay in the Buddha's frequent chamber or have a separate chamber for himself. And that he should not be included in the Buddha's alms invitation. And then the Buddha should consent to invitations received by him. And then the Buddha should give him permission to introduce visitors who came from afar to see the Buddha. And he should be allowed to consult the Buddha whenever he had any doubts to clarify. Also, the Buddha should repeat to him any discourses delivered in his absence. Now here, the number 8 condition is very important here. Regarding the words, thus have I heard. Because the Buddha agreed to this condition, then Venerable Ananda became his personal attendant, right? So the Buddha had always repeated to Venerable Ananda any discourses delivered in his absence. Therefore, Venerable Ananda knew all of the discourses and the teachings delivered by the Buddha. And it is said that Venerable Ananda possessed a very quick and keen intellect, and he could remember the exact words of every discourse that the Buddha gave. And after the Buddha's parinibbana, 3 months later, 500 arahants, they gathered together at a cave near Rajagaha, and all the teachings of the Buddha were presented there. Now, only when all the arahants were satisfied that a particular teaching was the authentic teaching of the Buddha, then the assembly will accept it to be one of the teachings of the Buddha. And as a sign of acceptance, the elder will recite the teaching together. Now, so later on, this event, this gathering of the 500 arahants was called the First Buddhist Council. The cave look like this nowadays. You can still visit it. And it is located around this area in Rajagaha. So during that First Buddhist Council, the Venerable Mahākassapa raised questions about the authenticity of the Buddha's teaching, and there were 2 venerables who answered the questions. So for Vinaya, the division of disciplines for monks and nuns, the Venerable Upali gave the answer, and for the suttas, Venerable Ananda gave the answers. So when the Venerable Mahākassapa posed the question about the Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta, the Venerable Ananda gave the answer beginning with the words, Evam me suttam, thus have I heard. So this is how all the suttas start, because Venerable Ananda explained how this is what I have heard from the Buddha. Now,
Throughout the sutta, you will find that there are quite a lot of repetitions. And repetitions are actually very important, especially because in the beginning, all the teachings were passed down through oral tradition. So it was only until 450 years after the passing away of the Buddha was the teaching first written down on palm leaves in Sri Lanka. So during that time, it is said that there was a great rebellion in Sri Lanka. And after the rebellion, some monks who went to India came back to Sri Lanka. And those monks who stayed in Sri Lanka said that since they have gone through very difficult times, that their memories might have failed and they might have made some mistakes in the teaching. So they decided that they should compare the teaching again by holding a fourth Buddhist council. And after that, the monks decided that it would be very difficult for future generations to retain all the teachings of the Buddha in memory. So that's why they have decided to write down all the teachings for the first time in palm leaves. So those are the palm leaves. It looks like that. So here, by saying Evam me suttam, thus have I heard, the Venerable Ananda effaced himself and bore witness to the Buddha. He finalized the Buddha's word and established the Dhamma as the guide. By saying that these words were not his own invention, and he emphasized that he had heard this word directly and he has learned it directly from the Buddha himself, Venerable Ananda strengthened the saddha, or the faith, or confidence for those who listen to this teaching. So this is how all the suttas start with the words, thus have I heard, and all thus have I learned, Venerable Ananda said. Okay, then we go back to the sutta. Ekam samayam. Ekam samayam means at one time. Now here at one time, exactly when this sutta was delivered, Venerable Ananda did not mention here. So we only know that at some time in Kurus, in the place where the Kurus people lived, and this sutta was explained. If the Venerable Ananda has also mentioned when, then maybe we could have organized the whole Tipitaka in a chronological order. But because he didn't say it, so we can only sometimes guess which sutta was expounded before and which ones after. No? Anyways, let's continue. So here, I think that's quite straightforward and nothing much needs to be explained. Thus have I heard, at one time, the Blessed One was living in Kurus, where there was a market town of the Kurus named Kamasadama. Then it continues. Tatrako Bhagawa Bhikkhu Amantesi Bhikkhavoti Badanteti Te Bhikkhu Bhagavato Pachasosum Bhagawa Etadavocha. There, the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus thus, bhikkhus, and the bhikkhus replied to him, Venerable Sir, and the Blessed One spoke as follows. Now here, bhikkhu, the Buddha always addressed the monks as bhikkhus. Bhikkhus were excellent persons who accepted the Buddha's teaching. But this does not mean that in saying bhikkhus, other peoples who were not monks were not addressed. Actually, anybody who accepts and follows the Buddha's teaching can be called a bhikkhu in Pali. So when the Buddha says bhikkhu, it must be understood that monks as well as nuns and lay persons are also addressed here. So everyone, monks and nuns and us also. Okay, so this discourse is given is the Buddha taught everyone, not only the monks, but everyone how to practice vipassana actually. So let's go ahead and see further to the sutta. Ekayano ayam bhikkhave mago satanam visuddhiyao. Let's go line by line. This is the only way, bhikkhus, for the purification of beings. Now, ekayano ayam, this is the only way. Venerable Usilananda translated this ekayano, this word, as the only way, and Bhikkhu Bodhi translated this term as the direct path. Actually, there are a few ways that we can understand this word ekayano. Let's take a look. According to the commentaries, ekayano translated as only way. Eka means one, ayana means way. So ekayana means one way. Yeah. Now the first way we can understand this word is that it means it is the single way, therefore one way, that does not branch off, meaning it is a direct path. So this is the first meaning. And according to the second meaning, it is also mean that this way has to be trodden alone. So we have to walk this way by ourselves, and no one can help us or bring us there. We must walk the way ourselves alone. So that's why one, no, ekaya, no, one way. And the third meaning, this one, it means the Buddha, the excellent one. So that means this is the way that is discovered by the Buddha, by the excellent one. So in that sense, one way. And then we can also understand this to mean, here, ayana can also mean existing. So eka means one, ayana means existing. Therefore, ekayana means existing in this only one. So it exists only in the Buddha's dispensation. The teaching of the four foundations of the mindfulness and the Noble Eightfold Path can only be found in the Buddha's teaching. So that's the meaning of it. And then we can also understand ekayano to mean the way that leads to only one destination, that is to Nibbana. That means by the practice of the four Satipatthāna, the only destination that one will reach is Nibbana. So that is the five meaning that is mentioned in the commentaries. Now, about this only one way, the Buddha also talked about it in the Dhammapada, verse 274. And there, the Buddha was even more explicit. He said, Ese wa mago natanyo dasanasa visuddhiya. This is the only path, there is none other for the purification of vision. So it is not only in the Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta that the Buddha mentioned that in order to get enlightened or in order to realize the truth, the practice of the Satipatthāna is the only way for the purification of the vision. Okay, so here we understand ekayano, this only way, to mean these five meaning. So some people might argue that it is not necessary so much details if as long as we say that it's the direct path we understand. No? However, according to the commentary, since ekayana is the term used by the Buddha himself, by understanding this term in various ways, we gain a clearer picture of what this path actually entails. So it is good to understand it in different angles. No? Then we have a more complete feeling and understanding about what the path is like. So we see here Mago as the single way that does not branch off, the path that one must walk alone, and the way of the Buddha, the excellent one, and it exists only in the Buddha Sasana, in the Buddha's teaching, and this is the way that leads to only one destination, Nibbana. So that is ekayano. Up to here, all good, everyone? Yeah? Okay. So let's continue. Now we go back to the sutta. So we have seen ekayano ayam bhikkhave mago. Maga. Now, when we talk about maga, what does it mean? It is translated simply as just only path or way, no? But it actually specifically refers to the Noble Eightfold Path here. So the path, mago, here means the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, when we practice the Satipatthāna Sutta, we are actually engaging with the Noble Eightfold Path. We're actually practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. We will understand this clearer when we discuss further when we go into the Sutta later on. Because without the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, it is not possible to reach Nibbana. And during our study of the Abhidhamma, we have learned that Magga is actually a type of citta, right? It is a lokuttara citta, supramundane citta. That is the type of consciousness that arises in one when one attained enlightenment. And it only arises at that moment, right? So, however, in this context, if we are talking about practice, we have not yet attained enlightenment. So what does this magga actually means? So here we use the term magga to refer to what is called the Pubbabhaga magga, the former path. That's the path before the actual enlightenment. That's the practice. Yeah. So here, the path here, we need to understand that it is actually the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path and not the magga citta, not the path consciousness yet. Now, according to the commentaries, it says that the meaning of the magga is nibbana gamana tena, nibbana tikehi maganiya tena cha. That means the path, it is the path that should be taken by those who wish to reach nibbana. So those who want to attain nibbana must practice this path. So that's why it is called a path. So here, this path, we understand it to be the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, then we go back to the sentence, and then we see the next words. Satanam visuddhiya, for the purification of beings. So this is the only way bhikkhus for the purification of being. Now it is clear that when we practice the Satipatthāna, and if we attain the path consciousness through the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, then the mind will be purified. No? So it is important to note that here, to purify the mind, we must engage in practice with the mind itself. That's why here, for the purification of being, it means the purification of the minds of the being, not the bodies of the being. Yeah. Well, to us, it seems quite obvious that, of course, this purification of the mind. But remember, during the time of the Buddha, and even nowadays in India, there are people who believe that they will get purified, for example, by bathing in the Ganges, etc. No, so it is important to understand that what it's meant here is not the purification of the body, but the purification of the mind. Because the mind of all beings are tainted or contaminated by different kinds of defilements. Most of the time, our minds are not very pure. It's with attachment, with craving, with hatred, with anger, ignorance, pride, envy, jealousy, and so forth, and so many defilements, right? So this Satipatthāna method helps to purify the mind of all beings, of those who practice it. It is said that this is the only way for the purification of beings, the purification of the minds of the beings. Now we can understand this in two ways. While we are practicing Satipatthāna, when we are not enlightened yet, we are practicing. At that time, during the meditation, the mind is absent. I mean, those defilements are absent from the mind. When we're practicing, there is no craving, there is no delusion, there is no aversion at that time. Yeah. So therefore, at that time, the mind is temporarily or momentarily purified. And finally, when we reach the final destination, when we reach Nibbana, at that time, the mind will be absolutely free from all kinds of mental defilements. So mental defilements will not arise ever again at that time. Yeah. So we understand this to mean during the meditation, temporarily, and also when we reach the final destination, that it is good, gone for good. Okay, let's continue with the sutta. Now here we continue, and this is actually a general statement of the result or the benefit of practicing Satipatthāna. So it goes on, Sokka paridevanam samatikamaya, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation. So that means, again, by practicing Satipatthāna, it is possible to overcome sorrow and lamentation. Now, in the commentaries, there are many different cases about how people in the time of the Buddha overcame sorrow and lamentation by the practice of the Satipatthāna, such as the minister Santati, if you have not heard about this story, or also Patachara, who lost both her son and husband and her parents during the time of the Buddha. So some of these stories or cases actually during the time of the Buddha is mentioned in the commentaries. But here I'm not going to repeat all the stories here, but if you are interested, you can investigate about Patachara and about the minister Santati who served the king Pasenandi of Kosala. So these stories are mentioned in the commentaries. Now, when we practiced Vipassana meditation, we are instructed to be aware of everything that is happening at the moment, the present moment. We need to notice what is arising in the mind and in the body and at every moment. So while we are aware and while we are observing during meditation, then there is no sorrow and lamentation at that time. And again, at the end, when we've really attained, when we eradicate all kinds of defilements and attained Nibbana, then sorrow and lamentation will be gone when we attain Arahathood. No? At that time, it will be all gone. So this is another benefit or result of the practice of Satipatthāna. Now let's continue. Dukkha domanasanam atangamaya, for the disappearance of pain and grief. So in the same way, we can understand this is another benefit. And then it goes on, Jnanasa adhigamaya, for the reaching of the noble path. Now, practicing of the Satipatthāna leads to reaching the noble path. This Jnanasa adhigamaya, in ultimate reality, it refers to the four maggas. The four Maggacitas, the four attainment, or the attainment of the four stages of enlightenment, right? So by practicing Lokiya Magga, which is mundane path, practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, through Satipatthāna, we can attain the Lokuttara Magga, which is the supramundane path consciousness here. So this is for the reaching of the noble path. And also, each path consciousness has the capacity to eradicate some kind of defilements. Then after reaching the fourth, the highest stage of enlightenment, when the Arahata Magga Citta arise, then all kinds of defilements will be totally eradicated and uprooted at that time. Okay, then we continue. It says, Nibbanasa Sachikiriyaya, for the realization of Nibbana. At that time, after Magga Citta arise, then Phala Citta will arise immediately. And both of these Citta actually take Nibbana as its object. So that is when the person actually experiences Nibbana by himself or by herself. No? So that is the meaning. The benefit also here is reaching the noble path and attaining Nibbana. Yeah? Okay, so in short, we can understand that the Buddha here is explaining about the benefits of practicing Satipatthāna here. So what are the benefits? Satanam Visuddhiya, purification of the minds of beings. Sokha Paridevanam Samatikamaya, overcoming sorrow and lamentation. Dukkha Domanasanam Atangamaya, the disappearance of pain and grief. Jnanasa adhigamaya, reaching the noble path, and Nibbanasa Sachikiriyaya, realization of Nibbana. So all these are the benefits or result of practicing Satipatthāna. Now, some may say, if we say that the purification of the mind, actually overcoming sorrow and lamentation, disappearance of the pain and grief, all these are already included, all this, no? If we only say purification of the mind. Because if the mind is purified, then there will definitely be no sorrow and lamentation or pain or grief. And if the mind is purified, then one has reached the noble path and realized Nibbana. Then why does the Buddha explain everything here? No? So in the commentaries, it is said that for those who are already familiar with the Buddha's teaching, if we say only Satanam Visuddhiya, they may understand that all these are meant. But for those who are not very familiar or not fully understand the nature of the Buddha's teaching, there are some people who might need a little bit more explanation, right? So therefore, the Buddha elaborated on these other benefits also to make it clear to the audience that this is the result of practicing Satipatthāna. And also, there is another explanation that says that the purification of the mind actually occurs by overcoming sorrow and lamentation. And we overcome sorrow and lamentation by eliminating dukkha and domanassa. So that's also why it is explained in this way. So we can also understand it this way. Okay, so before the Buddha explained how to practice the four satipatthana, the four foundations of mindfulness, the Buddha first highlighted these benefits and encouraged the audience to gain this benefit by practicing the four satipatthana. Okay, so let's go back to the sutta. So it says, all these are the benefits, and then it continues with Yadidam Chataro Satipatthana, namely the four foundations of mindfulness. So here, that means this is the only way. What is the only way? The four foundations of mindfulness is the only way. So here we understand that the four foundations of the mindfulness is the only way for what? For the purification of beings, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, and for reaching the noble path and realization of Nibbana. So this is a general statement that the Buddha explained before going into the details of the actual four satipatthana. Until here, all good? Yes? Everyone okay? Or let's take a break of 5 minutes here, and coming back, we'll continue with the sutta. Okay, so see you in 5 minutes. Hey, welcome back, everyone. All right, so so far, it's everything okay? Yeah, am I speaking too fast? Okay, yeah, all right, that's good. And also, please excuse my English because it is not my mother tongue, so sometimes I make grammatical mistakes and this and that. Well, I hope you understand what I'm talking about. All right, okay, so let's continue with the sutta. We have just finished the general introduction of the benefits of the practice of the Satipatthana. Now we'll go and see what actually the fourth foundation of mindfulness is. Chattaro Satipatthana. Now, Chattaro means four. Then Satipatthana means the foundations of mindfulness. Now, when we hear the four foundations of mindfulness, it sounds like the emphasis is on the foundations, right? But actually, what is important here is sati itself. Now, let's take a look at the word satipatthana. Satipatthana is a word that is combined with sati and patthana. Sati means mindfulness, and patthana here, it has two meanings. The first meaning is something that proceeds having gone down into, or having entered into and having spread over the object here, over the object. So that means satipatthana means mindfulness that proceeds having gone down into the object or having entered into and having spread over the objects. And what are the objects of Satipatthana? So here we have four foundations. So we have four types of different foundation, four bases here. The first one, kaya, the body. Then we have Vedana, mental feeling, Chitta, consciousness, and Dhamma itself. Well, Dhamma is a very difficult word to translate, so most of the time we just leave it as Dhamma without translation. But what does it actually mean? When we get into that part, then we will understand that what is included in this Dhamma here, okay? So here, it means that mindfulness that has to go deep into or have to spread over all these objects. So the four satipatthana actually means the four foundations where sati established. So sati grows from these four foundations. And the second meaning here, patthana can also mean mindfulness also. According to the commentaries,
Padanam Tanam Patana. That means it indicates that sati and patana both refers to mindfulness. So here we can say that in the second meaning, sati itself is the primary factor which needs to be established, and on what? On these four main objects here. So in summary, we can understand that the four foundations of mindfulness are where sati should be established, which are very essential for the attainment of magga, or attainment of the Noble Eightfold Path. These four foundations are vital, and they are collectively called the Satipatthāna, the four foundations. So sati here is categorized into four based on these four objects. So sati of the kaya, of the body, sati of the vedana, sati of chitta, and sati of dhamma also, no? And now we may wonder, but why four? Why not 5 or 6 or 2 or like other numbers? Why are there only 4? So according to the text, it is said that there are 2 main types of temperaments of being. So the first type is called tanha chariya, which means beings with a temperament of craving. And then there is another type of beings that is of ditti chariya. So that is the wrong view temperament. Now, when we study the Abhidhamma Sangaha, some of you that we have studied together, you may be aware that when we studied the chapter 9, that we have mentioned that there are actually more temperaments. So we have also people that have the intellectual temperament, people that have faith temperament, and also aversion temperament. So we have different types of moha temperament, also different temperaments. But all in all, if we categorize it into 2 main groups, it's mostly divided into these 2 types, tanha chariya or ditti chariya. So the temperament of craving or the temperament of wrong view. Now, all worldlings, all unenlightened beings, we all have craving and attachment. And this is actually why we are here, no? Why we are still wandering in samsara continuously. That's because we have the craving and attachment. In the dependent origination, they say tanha paccaya upadana, upadana paccaya bhavo. Yeah. So because of craving, there's clinging. Because of clinging, there is becoming. So all beings, if we categorize it into the most basic, then it must be a craving-based temperament. That's why we are here. And so why is this group divided into craving and wrong view? That's because sometimes there are people who are more attached to the sensual pleasure or attached to material things or even attachment to life itself. So it's more a craving type. But there are also people who are more attached to views or ideas. Yeah, does it make sense? So there are two different types of people. So therefore, the teachings aligned with the nature of beings, and therefore it is divided into 4 types. And here, the temperaments also can further be divided into sharp-witted beings, individuals, tika person, tika panya, or manda panya, the slow-witted person. So someone who understands very quickly and someone who understands a little bit slower. So in tanha chariya, we also have the quick type, sharp-witted being, and the slow-witted being. And in the ditti type, wrong view type, also sharp and slow-witted person. So therefore, it is said that for the tanha chariya, for the craving temperament person who is a little bit slower, then it is suitable for them to contemplate on kaya, on the body. And for the same temperament, but sharp-witted person, it is said that Vedana the contemplation of feelings, are suitable for them. And in the same way, for those who are with temperament of wrong view, then Chitta Nupassana and Dhamma Nupassana are suitable for them.
So why is that so? That's because if a person is more attached to material things, and so it will be easier for them to contemplate something that is tangible. No, the body will be easy for them to contemplate. And if the person is also sharp-witted, then he or she may be more the mental feeling may be more apparent to them. When we attach, if we look at our personal experience, when we are attached to something, what do we actually like? We do not actually like the object, do we? We like how the object makes us feel. Yeah. So that's mental feeling that we are attached to. So that's also a very, very important part that we need to look at. Yeah. So for those who are sharp-witted, it is said that they might be more easy to aware of their mental feelings. So therefore, this Vedana will be suitable for them. And for Didicariya, for those who have tendency to attach to views and ideas are actually what the mind, our thoughts, our ideas. So chitta itself, consciousness itself, will be a suitable object for them to contemplate on. And for a sharp-witted person, they might be easy to understand the Dhamma. So therefore, it is said that these 4 types of contemplation are established in alignment with the different types of temperament of person. But of course, we have both tanha and ditthi, even with dosa and moha and everything. No, so we all have everything, all kinds of defilements. But among these defilements, we might be a little bit maybe more tendency towards attachment of views, or maybe more tendency towards attachment of feelings or the body, etc. So that's why it is divided into these 4. But actually, we have to practice all, no? Because we have all types of different defilements, and each of this foundation, it actually counteract with a different defilement. So later we'll look at that also. So the first reason why it is divided into 4 is because of these 4 types of different temperaments. No? And then it is said that it has also to do with the way how a person practiced vipassana. So I think most of you might have heard about Samatha Yanika and Vipassana Yanika. And for those who haven't heard about it, it is the way of how a person approach vipassana meditation. So some people, they would like to practice vipassana only after they attain jhana. So they like to practice samatha meditation and to gain concentration, a very, very high or deep concentration, even until jhana. And then coming out from the jhana, they switch to practice vipassana meditation. So that is one way. And if a person takes this kind of practice, then he or she is called a samatha yanika. Now, yanika means the person who takes samatha as a vehicle. So in this case, the person first practice samatha meditation, gain deep concentration, and then switch to vipassana. Therefore, they are called a person who takes samatha as a vehicle. And there are also people who practice only vipassana without first practicing samatha meditation. And those persons are called vipassana yanika. Those persons who takes only vipassana as their vehicle, no? Without first gaining any jhana. So we have samatha yanika and vipassana yanika. And among these 2 types of practitioners, it is also divided into the sharp-witted and the slow-witted. So the Tikapanya and the Mandapanya in the same way. And in the same way as the temperament, it is said that for samatha yanika, for those who first practiced samatha meditation, and for the slow-witted, it is suitable for them to first practice Cayanupasana. Cayanupasana is recommended, the contemplation of the body. And for those who practice samatha first, but they are sharp-witted, then Vedananupasana, contemplation of mental feeling, will be suitable for them. And for those who practice vipassana directly, then the Cittanupassana will be suitable for them. The contemplation of consciousness. And for those who are sharp-witted and practice directly vipassana, Dhammanupassana is suitable for them. So thus, the Satipatthana is categorized into 4 based on the temperament, charita, whether it's tanha or ditti, craving or wrong view, and the approach of samatha and vipassana. And also, you might have heard of that there are 4 types of vipallasa, perversions. Have you heard of the perversions? Perversions means how we mistakenly see reality. So the first type of perversion, vipallasa, is called subha vipallasa. So we mistakenly take mind and matter or everything to be beautiful. In reality, things are not always as beautiful as we think they are. No? So we have this kind of perversion idea of things are always beautiful. So this is the first type of perversion. And the second type is the sukha perversion. We take things to be pleasant, while it's actually dukkha. It's unsatisfactory, but we think it is pleasant. It is satisfactory. So that's another wrong idea. And the perversion of permanence, nicca. While things are impermanent, we think that they are permanent. And then we also have the perversion of self, atta. While there is no self, we think that, or we feel that there is a self. So because of delusion, because of moha, we see things as the opposite of how they truly are. So these 4 types of wrong understanding or wrong way of looking at reality is called the 4 vipallasa, the 4 perversions, translated into English. So in order to eliminate these 4 types of wrong perversion, it is said that subha, to expel or dispel subha vipallasa, the practice of Cayanupassana is suitable. Because if we do not see the non-beautiful side of the body, we may continue perceive the body or everything, material things, to be beautiful and nice and good, and we will keep being attached to them, right? So in order to eliminate this kind of perversion, then Cayanupassana is recommended. Now, for sukha, then we must practice Vedananupassana. So that is the contemplation of mental feeling. If we understand, if we truly see mind and matter as dukkha, we will not take things as pleasant, right? So this vipallasa will be dispelled if we truly understand about dukkha, about mental feeling. No? Now, about anicca, okay, we can understand that the body is always changing, things are always changing, but how about the mind? Sometimes we mistakenly think that the mind is always the same. Yeah? So I was like this yesterday, I'm like this today, and I'm also like this. I will also be like this tomorrow. No, so the body may be getting old, it may be changing, but I'm still me. No, that the mind is the same. We might have this kind of idea. So in order to dispel this kind of wrong assumption, then the practice of Cittanupassana is recommended. Because when we look at chitta, it's actually nothing permanent. One chitta arises and it passes away immediately. Another chitta arises and it passes away immediately. So it's a series of chitta that arises and passes away in a very, very, very fast sequence. And so that's because it is so fast, then it gives the delusion or the illusion that it is the same. But actually, it is not the same. It's like when we look at the movie, there are a lot of different frames one after another, and we think that the animation, that Mickey Mouse is walking. But actually, there's only one picture, and then another picture, and then another picture. So in the same way, the mind also works this way. So in order to understand the impermanence of the mind and matter, both the practice of Citta and Nupassana, the contemplation of consciousness of mind, is helpful. Okay, and then in order to understand that there is no self, Now we need to practice the Dhammanupassana. We have to understand how things have a cause. Because of cause and condition, things arise. And when the cause and condition is no more, then things pass away. It's not because I am here, I want to be like this, or I want to be that way, that things happen. Yeah. So in order to understand that, the contemplation of the Dhamma, of how things arises and passes because of its own cause and condition, will be very helpful for the elimination of this perversion of a self. So therefore, again, to practice the 4 Satipatthāna will help us in this in the elimination of this perversion, and therefore the Satipatthāna is divided into 4 also. So as a summary, that we now understand that the 4 foundations of mindfulness are divided into these 4 types because of the different temperaments of beings, because of the way of practice, samatha and vipassana, as well as the perversion, or about, how can I say, as well as the counter action, how do you say that? How to counteract with the vipalasas. Also, it is divided into these 4 types. In the commentaries, there is more explanations in many more ways. For example, also by way of not only the perversions, also by way of Oga, yoga, ganda, upadana, the flood, the yoke, the bond, the grasping. In Abhidhamma Sangaha in chapter 7, we have studied all this, the different types of defilements. No, so according to those, which type of contemplation address which type of defilements, those things are further explained in the commentaries. But now I think with this much, it is quite good information already for us to understand why there are 4 types of 4 foundations here. All right. So although there are many meditation practices discussed in this sutta, all of them can be categorized under these 4 actually. The Kaya-nupassana, contemplation of the body, contemplation of mental feeling, contemplation of consciousness, and contemplation of the Dhamma. Now, it is good and important to note that for samatha practiced, only Kaya-nupassana is suitable here in this sutta. So Kaya-nupassana, contemplation of the body, can be utilized in both samatha and vipassana practiced according to this Mahāsatipatthāna Sutta. And the other 3, mental feeling, citta, consciousness, and Dhamma, they are specifically for vipassana only. Now, in the Satipatthāna Sutta, we will encounter 14 types of Kaya-nupassana. So 14 types of different practice, such as the Anapana, the breathing in, breathing out, the Iddhyapada, the posture, Sampajana, the full awareness, and then there are repulsiveness of the body, and then the channel ground contemplation, etc. So there are 14 types of different meditation mentioned under Kaya-nupassana. And then for Vedana-nupassana, there are 9, and for Citta, 16, and for the Dhamma, 5 categories. So altogether in this sutta, we will find 44 types of anupassana, so contemplations. Different contemplations will be discussed under these 4 groups. Okay, so that's about the little bit introduction about the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Now, the sutta continues, and it goes to the first introduction of the 4 different satipatthana. So it says, Katame chataro, what are the 4? Which 4? Ida bhikkhave bhikkhu kaye kaya nupasi viharati. Atapi sampajano satima vineya loke abhija domanasam. Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body and the body, ardent, clear, comprehending, and mindful, removing covetousness and grief in the world. Okay, so I will just go a little bit more here, and then we will leave it for next week. because otherwise we will start, we will need a little bit more explanation here. So we just go a little bit more here. Now, when we say herein, what does it mean? Here, where? According to the commentaries, it says, idati imasmin sasane. So that means herein, in the Buddha's teaching. So here we need to understand that. Which four? What are the four Satipatthāna? Here, in the teaching of the Buddha, bhikkhu, a bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body in the body. Now, when we see kaya nupasi viharati, that means dwells contemplating the body in the body. Now, Bhikkhu Bodhi translated it as abides contemplating the body as a body, while Sayadaw Usilananda translated it as dwells contemplating the body in the body. And Sayadaw Ukamsachara, he said, to make it clear, to clarify, we can understand it to be, we dwells contemplating the body as the body in the body. It sounds a little bit complicated, yeah. Like why so many bodies here now? So now we'll see what does it actually mean. So a bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body as the body in the body. That means we should contemplate the body as the body in the body and not the body as mental feeling or as consciousness or as Dhamma in the body. So kaya here means rupa kaya, in the physical body, kaya. So in the physical body, we contemplate the body. And then we contemplate the body how? As the body. Contemplate the body as it is, as the physical body in the body. So I'll give you an example to understand this a little bit easier. Say we are contemplating the body. We're doing contemplation of the body, kaya nupassana. So we're contemplating the body where we may take muscles, bones, or the four elements as to be the body, and we are contemplating that. And it happens that at that time we have a back pain. So if we stick to kaya nupassana, then we should contemplate the body, as rupa, as matter only in the body, and not as the mental feeling of pain, the painful feeling in the body, nor as our reaction, our mental reaction of how we react to this pain, for example, impatience or stress or anger, as we would do in the Citta Nupassana. So this would be Vedana Nupassana, no? Like the contemplation of mental feeling, how we're feeling the pain, or if we are distressed about it, and then that contemplation of the mind will be the contemplation of consciousness. Nor do we take it as like dukkha, as in the First Noble Truth, which is the Dhamma, right? So here it wants to say that when we do kaya nupassana, contemplation of the body, we contemplate the body as the body in the body, and not as mental feeling or as the mind, as consciousness, or as the Four Noble Truth here, or as Dhamma in the body. Because for our own personal experience, we may perceive all these things all together in our experience. Now, when we feel the body, we know our body, and we are aware of the pain, and we know our reaction, and indeed it is dukkha. And of course, it is necessary that we observe and contemplate about all these aspects in order to have a clear and deep understanding of reality. That is important. That's why we need to understand all four Satipatthāna, no? All four foundations. But here, remember that we are reading the explanation on Kaya Nupassana here. So it's about body contemplation. So in this section, it explained about the contemplation of the body. So we must know the difference, what is body and what is mind, and not to mix them. No, so we need to know clearly mind as mind, body as body. So therefore, it is said here in the sutta, in this phrase that it says, a bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body as it is, in the body. Not the body as Vedana, as mental feeling, or not the body as consciousness, or the body as Dhamma. not like that, but body as the body in the body. Okay, yes, Edith?
You say we have to separate, I mean, it's impossible to separate the mind from the body, right? Like only the mind can know the position of the body or the hardness or anything else. So
Yes.
like
Yes. So what I mean by we need to separate, I mean we need to understand which part is mind, which part is body, and not to mix them. So we understand body is body, this is rupa, and this is mind. This mental feeling is mind. So this belongs, they are different. Mind is mind, body is body. They work together and they are together. Obviously, we cannot separate them as separate them, but the mind can understand which part is body and which part is mind. So we do not mix mind as body, do not take body as mind and mind as body. So this is the separation that we need to know. Because remember, the first basic foundation to Vipassana wisdom, what is it? Nama Rupa Paricheda Jnana, no? The comprehension of mind and matter. No? We have to clearly separate and know what is mind and what is matter and not mix them. Yeah. So for that reason, we need to know. Well, actually, during actual practice, we might be we actually are switching from kaya to chitta and then to vedana and then to dhamma. And it's switching all the time because we are to be aware of what is happening at the present moment, right? So at the present moment, it cannot be that it's only body happening. It's not possible, no? So it's that the feeling is also happening, mind is also happening, everything is happening. So the mind, when we observe, is switching between the four foundations all the time. So sometimes we are more aware of the feeling, sometimes we're more aware of the consciousness, sometimes we're more aware of the body, and that's totally fine. But here, because we are doing the explanation of Kaya Nupassana, that's why the sutta specifically indicates that we have to take rupa as rupa in rupa if it is to be said, if it is to be called the contemplation of the body, right? So separating does not mean that we have to separate them, but we have to understand that they are different. Does that answer your question, Edith?
yes, well, you still use the mind to
Of
make
course, without mind, not
it clear.
possible to
Yes.
meditate. The mind meditates, the body cannot meditate.
Of course,
Body
of
cannot know
course. Yeah.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, yes, Delawa?
I don't understand what the third body is doing here, like what its meaning. I understand dwells contemplating the body as the body. I don't
Mm.
contemplate body as like feelings,
Mm.
as you already mentioned. But
Mm.
how do I have to understand the third one? Like, what else could there be as
Mm.
body in the body? Do I contemplate the body in my body or in someone else's body or in
Mm.
feelings? So what does it mean?
Mm.
That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, thank you for your question. So here we have to contemplate the body as the body in the body. Now, here that means in the same way we understand that we do not contemplate the body as the body in Vedana or in Chitta or in Dhamma, or also as you understand, it's also right in this body, not in somebody else's body. Also, does that make sense?
I think so, yes. Okay.
Okay. Yes. So when we contemplate the body as it is in the body. And when we contemplate mental feeling, we also take mental feeling as mental feeling in mental feeling. We don't take mental feeling to be in the body. Yeah. So in the same way. Yes, Sanda?
Does this in mean that it's the experience itself?
The experience itself. What do you mean by the experience itself?
I mean, you have to experience the body in order to contemplate it.
I think you can understand that way too. That's, for example, if we are contemplating let's say we are taking Anapana, yeah, breathe in and breathe out. So we are experiencing the body, which is this air element coming in and going out, and the body in this body at the present moment, it is happening, right? We cannot take that, okay, I contemplate Anapana, the breathe in and breathe out of yesterday. That's not possible, no? Because it has to be in the present moment and it has to be something that is happening. So what is happening here at this time, no? So what we are experiencing at the moment, then you may say it in this way. I think it's also okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanda. Okay, so here, any question, anything else? I'm just gonna wrap up this and we'll go to question and answer if there is anything else, okay? So here, kaya means in the physical body and not in the mind, and not contemplating the physical body in the mind, for example, and contemplating the physical body as it is happening now in the body. And Caraṇapālī, that means the contemplation of the body as it is. So we are to understand the observed and contemplate the body as the body in the body in this way. So this means the Caraṇapālī viharati. Now this viharati, the last word here, viharati, what does that mean? Dwells, like dwells in. So that means that we do not contemplate only when we are in sitting meditation or when we are doing walking meditation, but we contemplate in whatever body position, standing, sitting, lying down, walking, bending, or whatever, all the time, whatever activities we are doing, we dwells, that's why I say we dwell contemplating the body in the body. If it is to be called the contemplation of the body, it has to be done in the body, as the body, in the body, and all the time. So that's the meaning of this phrase, no? Of this phrase. Okay, so up to here, we'll finish the first phrase, which is Ida bhikkhave bhikkhu Caraṇapālī viharati, and we haven't gone into how to contemplate, yeah? We just said contemplate here. So because of time, I think we'll stop here, and then we'll continue next week with how to contemplate, okay? Yes, Austin.
So just to be clear, I'm just clarifying my own understanding. The only difference I understood between the explanation or the definition as given by Bhikkhu Bodhi and the first Soida that you mentioned versus the last Venerable that you mentioned, where he added the in the body part.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding was so that he just wanted to be very clear that it's not getting confused with the other three, Satipatthānas, and it's very clear that it's only the body. That's the only reason for adding the in the body part. Otherwise, basically, the other two people are also saying contemplate the body as the body,
Mm-hmm.
and they are just assuming that we understand that it's not any of the other three, but I think the last Venerable wanted to make it very, very clear. That's my understanding of it. I just wanted to ask that.
Yes, Austin, I think that's a very good summary and very good understanding of that. Thank you. Yes.
So what do you think the 6 type of temperaments would be? Which one would categorize as Tanha, Tanha Charita or Ditthi Charita? So, I mean, greedy and faith would go to Tanha for sure, and then the rest would maybe the hateful temperament goes there too.
I think, as I briefly said, that although there are more different types of temperaments, there are like the hatred temperament or the moha temperament, intellect temperament, and also the faithful temperament, etc. But if we classified it into a smaller group, all of us are tanha or ditthi. Yes, because we all have craving and attachment. That's why we are still here in samsara. Yeah. And then I also think that it is not very necessary, because it's a different category. In this case, we don't have to fit everything into that category. We just understand that we all human have attachments. That's why we are here. So we are either ditthi or we are either tanha. So sometimes we can also have a lot of dosa, then we might be dosa also, and some moha also. And then sometimes our faith or confidence is strong, that we are that type. So I don't think it's necessary to categorize, I am this type and I'm always this type, because we are all. And then we are different. Now this sometimes we are very angry sometimes, and sometimes we are less angry and we're more attached. And so maybe we're not all in terms of the intellect or the other types, but anyway, so we all have these different types of temperament to a different extent. So for this Satipatthāna, why is it divided into 4? It is explained in the commentaries that because of the more intellectual wrong view type of attachment, or the more material type of attachment to these two types. But it did not mention the other dosa and moha, those types.
I'm sorry, but I cannot agree that we like kind of switch temperaments here and there. I mean, I agree that we all have some, but like there is like one prominent in my mind, right? So
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah.
I have another question, but I let others speak first. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I think the switching, it does not mean that we are like bipolar, sometimes here, sometimes there. I'm not meaning like that, but it is like we do all have different temperaments, no? So sometimes, and then we need to be skillful in the way of how to deal with what is happening at the moment. Say, the scripture says that this type of meditation, of samatha meditation, is more suitable for, let's say, metta is suitable for people who have hatred temperament. So if I think that I am a person that I'm always angry or whatever, then it is good I practice metta, yeah. But it does not mean that I only practice metta and that's it. Right? I have to practice something else too. So depending on the situation, we practice different things. So this temperament is only a guidance. I don't think we need to take it very seriously because I'm this type, I need to practice this, no? So whatever is helpful at that moment, we need to use. We need to have a big toolbox, and we have all the tools there. Depending on the situation, what is helpful in this moment, we use whichever tool that we have. Yeah. All right, so we'll continue with that discussion maybe another time, so to give time to others. And yes, Ada?
Yeah, so I have two questions. The first is very brief. These teachings associating the different Satipatthāna with the different temperaments or yanika or the perversions, is this from the commentary or from some other source?
It's from the commentaries.
Okay.
Yes.
And so then my related question to that is, at least as taught, it sounded like it was suggesting that if you have one temperament, that you say focus on one Satipatthāna to the exclusion of others, or at least, you say, I'm just going to meditate on kaya. Is that actually the case, or is it?
No. No, it's like I think it is in experience. I think it is quite impossible that we only do one thing and exclude every other thing, because to understand the Noble Eightfold Path and to gain the Vipassana wisdom, later on we will talk about that. We must understand both mind and matter. So we cannot only understand the body and without understanding the mind, and that is not possible. So we need to understand both. And also, in actual experience, we do not only experience one thing, no? when we know what is happening at the moment, we sometimes know more the feeling. We sometimes know more about the consciousness, what kind of consciousness, and we sometimes know more about whether it is a hindrance, or sometimes we contemplate about the Four Noble Truths, and sometimes we know about the body or the elements, right? So all of them are here all the time. So whatever is apparent to us at that moment, we need to contemplate that. But those suggestions that the commentary makes, that is for people to, when they start practice, what will be easy for them to be aware of. So it is said that it is like a room with 4 doors. So you can enter whichever door. It doesn't matter. So if it is easy for a person to contemplate Anapana, then it's okay. We can start with the body. Then we contemplate Anapana. Then when we are contemplating the breathe in and breathe out, and then we realize the mind is gone, then maybe we can, or the mind is thinking, then we may, at the time, we might switch into Chitta Nupassana, and we know what the mind is doing. And then maybe at some point that the body, mental feeling is more obvious, then we can switch and we can look at the mental feeling also. So I think we need to do all, actually.
Thank you.
Yes, Delawa.
I will read few things, so I will try to make it quick. For Tanha Charita, do you focus on, for example, you focus on Vedana, and is it, for example, if you have pain while sitting, is that the Vedana you are focusing on? Or if you have a pleasant feeling, if you're outside and it's hot outside and then you feel a cool wind, is that associated with the sharp understanding? The one who has the sharp understanding.
Now, about the slow-witted person and the sharp-witted person, it may sound to us like they are very, very different, no? But actually, when we study the Abhidhamma Sangaha, then when we study the mental processes, then you may realize that actually the difference is not too much. Then sometimes the difference between a sharp-witted person and a slow-witted person can be only a few bhavanga chittas. So like those person who have less bhavanga that arises, and then it goes more directly to those jhana that they and also in the attainments for sharp-witted person and slow-witted person, sometimes there is like 1 chitta of difference between the slow type and the sharp type. So I'm not sure if we can take that as to be like somebody who is really slow, as how we would think on somebody really sharp, no? But I think this reference that is given in the commentaries, but what in actual practice, what is good will be, we'll see at which moment, at the present moment, what is more obvious and what is more prominent. Because at the end, we have to practice all 4, right? So it actually doesn't matter which object we take, as long as it is a real object in the present moment. If feeling is more obvious, then we take feeling. If my body sensation is more obvious, then we take the body sensation. And if the mind is more prominent, we just take the mind.
I think I didn't ask my question right, but thank you for explaining now that, because that was the important to know.
Yeah,
but my
sorry,
question was
I
actually,
didn't understand your question.
No, it's my fault. It was actually if my understanding of Vedana is right, because I still struggle with that word, I think.
Yes, it's a difficult one. That we will go there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so because I think some of you have the next class coming soon, if you need to sign out now, that you're welcome to log off, and we'll answer some other questions for those who are not in a hurry. Okay, so feel free to log out if you need. Okay, so we'll see you next week for those who are leaving. Okay, yes, Saji.
Oh, yes. I was just thinking now, if you are meditating on Anapanasati, and would you just gradually go to the other Satipatthanas, like the Kayana, you're doing the elements meditation, but would you just, or do you have to forcefully change, is what my question is.
Yes. Now it depends what is your purpose first. So if you are doing the anapana for concentration, for example, sometimes we think that the mind is a bit scattered and we want to collect the mind and make it more concentrated, then it will be, if we use anapana for that purpose, then we stick with anapana and then we don't, we ignore the other objects for that moment if we want to build concentration. Yeah. Then when we build concentration, after we think that the mind is quite stable at this moment, then we can open the mind to other objects. We don't need to force the mind to change to anything, because the capacity of the mind is actually very powerful. Automatically, it can notice many things without we wanting it to go here and there, no? So we just opened the mind, and if the mind happens to notice some, let's say, body sensation or a mental feeling, or the mind has gone to think and whatever. So whatever the mind has gone to at that time, and the awareness can look at it, then it is okay. We can go to that object. Or we can actually, I don't say go to, because it's better that the mind stay as the observer, a little bit back up, and just stay here and just see whatever is happening. Sayadaw Tejaniya used to say, the observer, Sati, is like the manager. He stayed in the office, and then you have workers that comes and bring you information from the different door. Yeah, or the eye is looking at this thing. Now the mind is thinking about this thing. There is some smell or whatever. But if we go there, if the manager go run around in the factory, then he will be too busy and he cannot have the general view, and he cannot know. It's just impossible for him to run around. So just stay in the back as the manager, sit back and open the senses and let the workers come and report to you. And the only thing you need to know is just to observe and to see what comes. And for practice, it is like that. Is that clear?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, anyone else has any other question? No? Okay. All right. So in that case, we will close here. I know it is very exciting, this Satipatthāna Sutta. When we start, even in just the first paragraph, then we started with Caraṇapālī, then we want to know how to practice, and then what is the next, and what should we do, and right. Well, all that will come. So we need to have a little bit patience, and then slowly, and step by step, we will go into the explanations of all about Anapana, which is the first Kayanupassana, first practice of the Kayanupassana, and then we have also the posture, and then we have many other different techniques that the Buddha taught. It will come. So today, thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and I hope it has been beneficial. I hope you get some information from the explanation, and I will see you again next Saturday then at the same time. Okay, so let's close today by reciting, by dedicating our effort for the attainment of Nibbana, and also to share merits with all beings. So let's dedicate our effort first. Itam no punyam Nibbanasa paceyo hotu. Itam no punyam Nibbanasa paceyo hotu. Itam no punyam Nibbanasa paceyo hotu. Now we share merits with all beings. Itam no punyam Savasatanam bhajima. Itam no punyam Savasatanam bhajima. Itam no punyam Savasatanam bhajima. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'll see you
so much
today.
Thank you.
Wish you a good week.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Good week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.